Hi everybody, it's Savannah Hill, and I'm going to go over my Module 12 case study with you. So what are the facts of the case? This is happening at St. Regis K through 8 school. The school is in a rural area and it's about 25 minutes outside of the major city. At the school there are 420 students with 2 teachers at each grade level. And there are also 2 special education teachers for the whole school. One of them does K-5 and the other one does 6-8. Financial support for the school comes from 2 large fundraisers that they have for the year. And the school also has a PTA that helps run the fundraisers, and they are also very helpful within the school. Mr. Keith Sample. He is the principal at the school, and he has been principal for the last 3 years. He has built strong relationships with the staff and the community, and he has worked really hard for these relationships, especially since he is not a St. Regis born and raised. Miss Lynn is also involved in the case. She is the school librarian, and she's also the media specialist. Since the school has gotten a new computer lab, they have also had Miss Lynn be the computer lab teacher. She helped get the computer programs for the computer lab up and running. She sent out questions for all the teachers on what they needed and what sort of programs. And she also has developed a schedule for the teachers to use the computer lab at their designated times. Another teacher who's involved in this case is Miss Williams. She is a 3rd grade teacher. She has always taught at St. Regis, and she's been there for many years, so she has a lot of experience. Another teacher is Miss Brandon. She is the other 3rd grade teacher at St. Regis. This is her first year at that school. However, she does have 3 years of experience at a different school. And then there's also Miss Evans. She is the PTA president, and she recently volunteered in the library. So what's the problem with this case? So there was computer software that was purchased with money from teachers' technology allocation funds for their own classrooms to use for their students. Blank CDs were purchased and copies of the programs were made by Miss Lynn with assistance from Miss Evans when she volunteered in the library. The copies of the computer programs were made for the teachers of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And the copies that were made were passed out by Miss Lynn to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade teachers. We've also gotten the information that Miss Williams accepted the copied program for her classroom. Miss Brandon did not want to accept the copied CDs because she knew that it was an infringement of copyright laws. So she took this information directly to her principal, Mr. Sample. Miss Brandon and Mr. Sample had a conversation about it and why Miss Brandon thought it was wrong and why she did not want to accept the copied CDs, and also why she did not want to go to the staff or anybody else other than Mr. Sample with that information. When confronted by Mr. Sample, Miss Lynn, who was the librarian, she did not deny copying the computer programs. She said that she did copy the programs for other teachers. Miss Lynn did not really seem to care that she violated the copyright laws. She was asking what was wrong with Miss Brandon and why it was such a big deal. And then she also suggested to Mr. Sample that she would call the PTA about the situation, let them know that she was trying to save them a bunch of money so they wouldn't have to purchase new computer programs, and that Miss Brandon and Mr. Sample were the ones who were trying to forego using the copied programs. So what are the legal and ethical issues within this case? So there are multiple people who have been harmed by copying the computer programs, thus affecting their well-being or potentially affecting their well-being. Miss Lynn and Miss Evans are the 2 people who copied the CDs, and Miss Lynn is also the person who purchased the blank CDs to be copied on. Both of them can be harmed because they're the ones who actually made the copies, so they are the ones who started this whole thing with violating the copyright laws. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade teachers who accepted the copies could also be harmed because they are using products that violate copyright laws, so they could also be held liable for these violations. Ms. Brandon can be harmed since she is the one who brought this matter to the attention of Mr. Sample, which can cause friction with the other teachers, especially since she is a new teacher and she hasn't built those relationships and trust with all the other teachers who have been there for multiple years. Also, the publisher of the computer programs could be harmed since they would be the ones who are losing the profit for selling their programs. If they sold a program and everybody started making copies of the program instead of purchasing more, they would thus be losing profits for people purchasing the programs that they created with the intent to sell them. Here's some more legal and ethical issues that are happening in this case. There are multiple laws that have been violated due to the computer programs being copied. The main violation is obviously with copyright. There was no permission given to Miss Lynn to copy the computer programs. She did not reach out to the programmers or the publishers of the program to get permission to make copies of it. Another violation that happens with copying these CDs is going to be with fair use. So fair use deals with the nature of the work being copied. Is it published? Is it not published? And this violation with fair use is also dealing with the value of the work being copied. Does the creator lose the sale? Which is something we already talked about. This computer program was published and it was for sale. So copying them violates both those parts of fair use. And also it has been stated that with fair use, you could make a copy of a computer program, but that's only for backup purposes. In case something happens to the original CD, you could have the copy that you created for backup, but you cannot have a copy of a computer program to distribute to other teachers or to other staff or students in the school. And also some other legal and ethical issues that are still continued is there was a breach of contract with the computer software program. When the school purchased the program, they agreed to the terms of the software, which include things like not being able to copy the program and following their copyright policies and laws. Also, with a breach of the computer software program contract, could be the breach of St. Regis's acceptable use policy. Did they have something in their policy that states that they are not allowed to make copies or violate copyright laws? Some of the actions that are happening because of this case could be looked at as discriminatory or harassment. And these examples could be that Miss Lynn suggested to call PTA, but it was more of a threat to the principal saying, well, if you don't agree with me, I will call the PTA and we can handle it that way. Miss Brandon was worried about bringing up the violation because she was concerned that it might make her look bad or other teachers would look badly upon her or frown upon her since she's new, bringing it up to the principal. And also another form of harassment or discriminatory actions that could come from this is that Miss Lynn asked what was wrong with Miss Brandon. Why did she have such a big deal with it? She was just trying to save the school a bunch of money since computer programs were so expensive. So what happened exactly? A copyright law was violated when a teacher chose to disregard the policies and the well-being of others by copying a computer program to distribute them to other teachers throughout the school. Summarizing the facts, who were the people? The people that were known to be part of this case were Mr. Sample, the principal, Miss Lynn, the librarian, Miss Williams, the third grade teacher who accepted the copied program, Miss Brandon, who did not accept the copy of the computer program and brought the issue up to Mr. Sample, and Miss Evans, who is the PTA president, who volunteered in the library and helped Miss Lynn copy the computer programs onto the blank CDs. The unknown people in this case are going to be the other teachers. Did the other second grade teachers and fourth grade teachers accept the copied CDs? Did anybody else in the school, K through 8, accept any copies of the computer programs? The students, did any of the students use or see any of the copied computer program? Other PTA members, were they aware of what was happening in this case? And the Board of Education, they also were not mentioned at all in this case. The place, here's what we know. We know that this school is a K-8 school. It's a small school, both with staff and students. Staff having only 2 per grade and 2 sped teachers. And then it's also small in the terms of only having 420 students from kindergarten through 8th grade. And we also know that it's a rural school. The unknown for the place in this case study is going to be the student demographics. We don't know what sort of students are at this school and what the school looks like as far as demographics go. And for the program for this case, what's known is that there's a strong presence of the PTA in the school. They do a lot of helping the teachers and the school and the district. There are 2 major fundraisers that happen every year, which is how the teachers get most of their funding. There is also a small amount of funding coming from the state for the school. As I said before, there were 2 teachers per grade level, and there was also 2 sped teachers for the school. We know that there is a new computer lab, and that's what the programs were for, and we know that this is also a public school. The unknown for this case is, was there any PD for teachers? Has there been any trainings or anything for them on any of these things? Does the district have an acceptable use policy, and is it known to teachers and staff, or do they know how to look it up and find it and read about it? Review of information. So the stakeholders that are part of this case are going to be teachers, staff, students, superintendent, the Board of Education, the PTA, the overall community, and the software company. All of the stakeholders could have damaging effects due to this copyright law violation, and they all have a stake in the outcome. But the stakeholders who have a large stake are going to be Miss Lynn and Miss Evans, because they are the ones that did the copying. Also, Miss Brandon and Miss Williams. Miss Williams accepted the copied CD. Miss Brandon is the one who took it to the principal, and then also the principal would also have a large stake in the outcome of this. Obviously, the superintendent and Board of Education would have a large stake depending on what happens with the outcome of this case. All of the relevant stakeholders have not been informed or consulted on this issue. The superintendent was not mentioned at all. The rest of the PTA was not mentioned or brought in, and also the Board of Education had no idea that any of these issues were going on. The community was also not aware or brought into the issue. What I would like to know more about are the other teachers. Did the other teachers accept the copies, or were other teachers outside of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade offered any copies? I would like to know about the copied programs. What exactly was copied? And what was the intent of copying any of the other programs? And the policies. Was there an acceptable use policy for the district? And have things like this been mentioned or brought about to the staff to know how to handle them? However, even though some of these things are missing, I do believe that it's enough information to make a decision on what to do regarding the case. So what are some of our options? The first option is to do nothing. Miss Lynn was asked to stop making the copies and to collect the copies that were already made and distributed. We had the discussion with her, so we should consider the situation is handled and take no further action. The second option would be to notify the software company. We could call up the company of the computer software and let them know about the violation of the copyright policy that has taken place and explain to them what has happened and what we did about it. Also with this option, we would fire Miss Lynn for committing the copyright infringement, and we could close the computer lab altogether. The third option would be meetings and trainings. We could hold a meeting with the PTA, the superintendent, and the Board of Education, discuss with them the situation, and decide the best way to handle it and how to move forward with it.